High Admiral Zextrol stood before the holographic display, his iridescent scales reflecting the soft blue glow of countless star systems. The newly discovered human territory glowed as a red cluster against the backdrop of mapped space. His secondary eyes narrowed as he processed the latest intelligence reports from the infiltration probes. "Primitive nuclear fission reactors," he muttered, scrolling through the data with a gesture of his upper appendage. "Chemical propulsion systems. No quantum shielding. No faster-than-light capabilities detected." He turned to face the assembled war council of the Kraken Empire, their chitinous forms arranged in perfect hierarchical formation. "My fellow warriors," he began, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into the Empire's standard frequency, "we have discovered a species ripe for absorption into our collective. Their technology is centuries behind our own. Their military presence is scattered and disorganized. They call themselves humans." The council chamber filled with the clicking sounds of amusement. Strategic Officer Valsha stepped forward, her battle-scarred carapace bearing the marks of 100 conquests. "The probe data suggests they still rely on radio waves for communication, High Admiral. Their response time to threats would be measured in minutes, not microseconds like our quantum-entangled network." Zextrol gestured to a detailed scan of Earth's orbital infrastructure. "They cluster their defensive satellites in predictable patterns. Their spacecraft are bulky, inefficient. The largest of their vessels would barely qualify as a support craft in our fleet." But Strategic Officer Valsh's sensory tendrils twitched slightly, a subtle sign of unease that only Zextrol noticed. "There is one anomaly in the data, High Admiral. Their power signatures. They fluctuate in patterns our analysts cannot decode. And their spacecraft, while primitive, move with unusual precision." Zextrol dismissed her concerns with a flick of his primary appendage. Meaningless variations, probably inefficiencies in their crude power systems. He expanded the holographic display to show the invasion fleet gathering at the Empire's border. 5,000 ships of the line, each one carrying enough firepower to reduce a continent to ash. "We will approach through their asteroid belt, using the debris for cover. Their sensors are too primitive to detect our advanced stealth systems." The War Council chittered their approval, but Valsha remained silent. She had fought 17 species across 8 spiral arms of the galaxy, and something about these humans nagged at her warriors' instincts. Their technology was primitive, yes, but it was primitive in a way that seemed deliberate. 3 solar cycles later, the invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Zextrol stood on the command deck of the flagship Eternal Dominion, watching with satisfaction as his ships moved into attack formation. The humans had detected them. Primitive radio signals were suddenly spiking across all frequencies, but it would take their chemical rockets hours to respond. "Launch the first wave," Zextrol ordered. "Target their orbital infrastructure and—" "What is that?" A new signature had appeared on the tactical display. Then another, and another. Where there had been empty space moments before, hundreds of human vessels were suddenly there. They hadn't jumped in. The Empire's sensors would have detected the spatial distortion. They had simply appeared, as if they had been there all along. "Impossible," Zextrol whispered. "Their stealth technology is more advanced than our detection systems." "How?" His words were cut off as the first human ships opened fire, but they didn't use the primitive chemical weapons the probe data had shown. Instead, beams of coherent light, more focused than anything in the Empire's arsenal, sliced through the void. Where they struck Kraken ships, the supposedly impenetrable quantum shields collapsed, as if they had never existed. "Their weapons," Valsha's voice was tight with professional appreciation, "they're using our own shield frequencies against us. But how could they have acquired the probe data?" Zextrol realized with dawning horror. They let us see what they wanted us to see. Those primitive systems were a facade. The human fleet moved with impossible coordination, each ship seeming to know exactly where every other ship would be at any given moment. Their formation shifted like a living thing, adapting instantly to every Kraken counterattack. As his mighty invasion fleet began to fall apart around him, High Admiral Zextrol finally understood. The humans hadn't been primitive at all. They had been waiting, watching, learning. And now, the Empire was about to learn a harsh lesson about the danger of underestimating a species that had survived countless extinction-level events on their own world. The humans hadn't just prepared for this battle. They had engineered it, and the Kraken Empire had walked right into their trap. The battle in the outer Sol system had been raging for 6 hours, and Strategic Officer Valsha had never seen anything like it. The human ships moved as if guided by a single mind, yet their tactics were constantly evolving, making them impossible to predict. She watched as another Kraken battlecruiser disappeared in a flash of quantum fire, its shields having failed against weapons that shouldn't exist. "They're not using traditional command and control," she reported, her tactical displays swimming with data she could barely comprehend. "Each human ship appears to be operating autonomously, yet in perfect coordination with the others. It's as if..." "As if what?" High Admiral Zextrol demanded, his scales now a mottled gray of stress and fury. "As if they're sharing consciousness across their entire fleet," Valsha finished. "But that would require computational power beyond anything we've achieved, even with our quantum networks." A new alert flashed across their screens. The humans were deploying something new. Thousands of small objects, barely larger than escape pods, spreading out in a complex three-dimensional grid. Mines. Zextrol wondered aloud. But these objects weren't exploding. Instead, they began emitting complex patterns of energy that seemed to twist space itself. The Kraken's quantum sensors went haywire, reporting impossible readings. "No," Valsha realized with a mix of horror and admiration. "They're nodes of a distributed quantum computer. They're turning the entire battlefield into a computational substrate." The implications hit her like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just developed advanced technology. They'd taken an entirely different evolutionary path. While the Kraken Empire had focused on building bigger, more powerful centralized systems, humanity had learned to weave computation into the fabric of space itself. A transmission cut through their confusion. The first direct communication from the human fleet. The holographic figure that appeared was unsettlingly similar to the Bible form their probes had recorded, but now they could see the subtle shimmer of neural interfaces across its skin. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Force," the figure announced, its voice carrying an unsettling harmony of organic and synthetic tones. "Your invasion fleet has entered a space that we have prepared for the last 50 years. Every asteroid, every dust particle, every cubic meter of vacuum has been seeded with our technology. You are not fighting our ships. You are fighting an entire solar system that has been transformed into a single defensive organism." Valsha's tactical mind raced ahead, seeing the true scope of humanity's achievement. Those primitive satellites they detected. Decoys. The clumsy chemical rockets. A masterful piece of misdirection. Humanity had hidden their true capabilities in plain sight, waiting for someone like the Kraken Empire to take the bait. New signatures appeared on their screens as hidden human installations across the asteroid belt activated. What had looked like simple mining operations revealed themselves to be massive manufacturing complexes. Artificial intelligence cores, dormant for decades, awakened in precise sequence. The entire solar system was coming alive around them. "We didn't build a fleet to match yours," Admiral Chen continued, her expression both stern and pitying. "We built something far more ambitious. Every piece of space debris, every comet, every asteroid in this system is now part of our defense network. Your ships are not just surrounded. They are inside humanity's largest weapon." As if to demonstrate her point, a nearby asteroid suddenly shifted its orbit, its surface rippling with previously invisible technology. A beam of concentrated energy erupted from its core, cutting through 3 Kraken dreadnoughts as if their shields were non-existent. "Impossible," Zextrol whispered. "The power requirements alone. 0-point energy extraction, Valsha realized. They've solved it. They're drawing power directly from the quantum vacuum. She turned to her admiral, her warrior's pride warring with her tactical judgment. Sir, we need to retreat. We're not fighting a primitive civilization. We're fighting an entire posthuman society that chose to appear primitive. This isn't a battle. It's a demonstration. The human admiral's hologram smiled slightly. Your strategic officer is correct, High Admiral Zextrol. This demonstration was costly to arrange, but we needed to show your empire, and any others watching, exactly what attempting to invade Earth will cost. We could have destroyed your fleet the moment you arrived, but that wouldn't have served our purpose. You needed to understand. Around the Kraken fleet, space itself seemed to pulse with power as humanity's hidden arsenal revealed itself layer by layer. Each revelation was carefully calculated to demonstrate capabilities that the Empire had thought impossible. They weren't just being defeated, they were being educated. And in the command center of the Eternal Dominion, High Admiral Zextrol finally understood the true lesson. His empire had spent centuries perfecting the art of war, but humanity had transformed war itself into something entirely new. They hadn't just surpassed the Empire's technology. They had rendered it obsolete. High Admiral Zextrol had never retreated from battle in his 3 centuries of service. Yet here he was, watching his mighty fleet scatter before the incomprehensible power of humanity's defense system. But the Kraken Empire hadn't conquered half the galaxy by giving up easily. As his remaining ships regrouped at the edge of the Kuiper Belt, he prepared to demonstrate why his species was feared across known space. Deploy the bioweapon pods, he commanded, his scales shifting to the deep purple of deadly resolve. Let's see how their precious technology handles a threat at the molecular level. Valsha's sensory tendrils coiled in concern. Sir, using restricted weapons will bring the attention of the Galactic Council. The Council is 15,000 light-years away. Zextrol cut her off. And they've never faced anything like these humans. Release the weapons. Thousands of sleek pods streaked toward the inner solar system, each containing engineered viruses designed to attack carbon-based life forms at the genetic level. It was a desperate move, but Zextrol was counting on the humans' technological sophistication working against them. No advanced civilization would maintain biological immune systems when they could rely on superior medical technology. The pods crossed the orbit of Neptune, then Uranus, spreading into a cloud that would be impossible to intercept completely. Zextrol allowed himself a moment of satisfaction, until his tactical display lit up with new warnings. The apparently empty space between the planets suddenly blazed with activity. Streams of microscopic machines emerged from their dormant state, forming intricate patterns that rippled through space like living webs. The bioweapon pods began disappearing, consumed by swarms of nanobots that broke them down at the atomic level. Interesting approach. Admiral Chen's hologram reappeared, looking almost amused. But we didn't abandon our biological heritage. We enhanced it. Every human in the solar system is a hybrid of organic and synthetic systems. Your bioweapons aren't just harmless. They're providing us with valuable data about your genetic engineering capabilities. The space around the Kraken fleet rippled as more of humanity's hidden defenses activated. This time, the attacks came at the quantum level, targeting the very fabric of reality that the Empire's ships used for computation and communication. You're thinking in linear terms, Chen continued, her voice carrying the hint of lecture. Trying each weapon type in sequence, looking for a weakness. But we didn't just advance our technology. We evolved our entire approach to warfare. Our defensive systems don't just react. They predict, adapt, and evolve. To demonstrate her point, a new type of human ship emerged from the asteroid belt. Unlike the earlier vessels, these seemed to shift and change as they moved, their very structure adapting to each Kraken counterattack. They weren't just ships, they were living laboratories, analyzing and countering each new threat in real time. Valsha watched in fascination as her own battle strategies were predicted and countered before she could fully implement them. The humans weren't just fighting. They were learning, evolving their tactics with each exchange. The battlefield itself had become a crucible of accelerated evolution. Your biological weapons were based on standard carbon chemistry, Chen explained, her tone now professional, almost academic. But life isn't limited to carbon. Silicon, boron, even quantum state organisms, we've explored and integrated them all. Your attack just provided us with several new insights into xenobiological warfare. Thank you. A massive structure began to emerge from Jupiter's atmosphere, a construct larger than anything the Empire had ever built. It was a biological computer of incomprehensible complexity, processing power measured not in qubits, but in quantum-entangled states of entire artificial ecosystems. While your Empire was perfecting ways to destroy life, Chen continued, we were exploring ways to expand the very definition of what life could be. Your bioweapons were elegant, but they were designed to attack a version of humanity that hasn't existed for generations. The construct began emanating waves of coherent energy that seemed to rewrite the local laws of physics. Kraken ships found their quantum shields not just failing, but actively turning against them, their own defense systems becoming part of humanity's coordinated response. Zextroll watched in mute horror as his latest attack not only failed but served to make humanity stronger. They weren't just defeating his weapons, they were incorporating the principles behind them, learning, growing, evolving in real time. Your Empire thinks in terms of victory and defeat. Chen's hologram concluded, we think in terms of adaptation and evolution. This isn't a war, High Admiral. It's a lesson in the true meaning of advancement. Every attack you launch teaches us more about you, while revealing nothing about our true capabilities. You're not losing a battle. You're participating in humanity's next evolutionary leap. As his fleet's capabilities were systematically analyzed and countered, Zextroll finally understood the true horror of his situation. He hadn't just attacked a superior technological civilization. He had attacked a species that had transcended the very concepts his empire was built upon. And they were using his own aggression as a catalyst for their continued evolution. The Kraken Empire's invasion fleet had been reduced to less than a third of its original size, its remnants scattered across the outer solar system. But High Admiral Zextroll's attention was no longer on his losses. His sensor arrays had detected something that chilled his warrior's blood. The human fleet was moving, not to pursue his retreating ships, but to form a massive geometric pattern that stretched across millions of kilometers of space. They're preparing for a jump, Valsha announced, her voice tight with disbelief. But the energy readings, they're unlike anything in our database. The human ships began to pulse with a strange rhythmic energy. The space between them seemed to fold and ripple, creating patterns that hurt to look at. Admiral Chen's hologram appeared one final time on the Kraken command deck. We've analyzed your faster-than-light technology, she said, crude but effective for its time. However, we've found that the universe offers far more interesting ways to travel. Allow us to demonstrate. The human fleet didn't vanish in a flash of light or tear through space like Kraken ships. Instead, they seemed to step sideways through reality itself, leaving behind a cascade of quantum echoes that played havoc with the Empire's sensors. When they reappeared, they weren't just outside the solar system. They were deep in Kraken territory, simultaneously emerging at dozens of critical military installations across the Empire. Impossible, Zextroll whispered. The spatial calculations alone would require. Your Empire thinks of space and time as barriers to be broken. Chen's voice came now from every communication system in the fleet. We see them as tools to be shaped. Your faster-than-light drives punch through space. Ours negotiates with it. At each location where the human ships appeared, they began broadcasting. Not attacks, not threats, but information. Pure, unfiltered data about the true nature of humanity's civilization, their technological capabilities, their philosophical evolution. They weren't just invading Kraken space. They were launching an assault on the very foundations of the Empire's understanding of reality. Your quantum communications network is impressive, Chen continued. But like all your technology, It's built on assumptions about how the universe works. Assumptions we transcended centuries ago. Right now, we're not just talking to your fleet. We're talking to every quantum-enabled device in your empire, sharing the truth about what humanity has become. The effects were immediate and devastating. Across Kraken space, military commanders watched in horror as their most classified systems displayed proof of humanity's superiority. Scientists saw their life's work rendered obsolete by casual demonstrations of technology that broke their most fundamental theories. The Empire's carefully maintained technological superiority crumbled in the face of humanity's revealed truth. But the humans weren't done. Their ships began deploying devices that interfaced directly with the quantum substrate of spacetime. The Empire's faster-than-light network, the backbone of their military coordination, was not just jammed or disrupted. It was reprogrammed at the fundamental level. Your empire's greatest weakness, Chen explained, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated with the very fabric of reality, is your belief that technology is something you use. For us, it's something we are. Every human ship you see is not just carrying our technology. It's an extension of our evolved consciousness. The human fleet's pattern shifted again, and suddenly, they were operating on multiple dimensional planes simultaneously. Kraken weapons passed harmlessly through ships that existed partially in other realities. Human counterattacks came from vectors that shouldn't exist, bypassing shields by approaching through higher dimensions. Zextrol watched as his empire's military doctrine, developed over millennia of conquest, was systematically dismantled. The humans weren't just defeating them. They were demonstrating the fundamental flaws in how the Kraken Empire understood the universe itself. Your civilization built an empire across 3 dimensions of space. Chen's voice carried something like pity now. We expanded into 11. Your ships travel through space-time. Ours has learned to treat it as a partner in navigation. You see technology as a means to power. We've made it an integral part of our evolutionary journey. As the last of his fleet's defensive systems failed, Zextrol finally understood the true scope of his error. He hadn't just underestimated humanity's technology. He had failed to comprehend that they had become something entirely new, something that made the very concept of technological warfare obsolete. The counteroffensive wasn't aimed at destroying the Kraken Empire. It was aimed at forcing them to confront the limitations of their own understanding. And as reports flooded in from across empire space of human ships appearing at will, demonstrating capabilities that defied explanation, Zextrol realized that the real battle had never been for territory or resources. It had been for the future of consciousness itself, and humanity had already won it before the first shot was fired. The Kraken Empire's capital world, Nexus Prime, had never known fear. For 10,000 years, it had stood as the unassailable center of galactic power, its quantum crystalline spires housing the collective knowledge and authority of a civilization that spanned thousands of worlds. But now, as the human fleet materialized in geometric patterns across its skies, the planet experienced something entirely new: humility. High Admiral Zextrol stood in the Imperial Chamber before the combined Council of Hierarchs, trying to explain humanity to beings who had never conceived of their own limitations. His scales had turned the pale gray of absolute certainty, not of victory, but of transformation. "They are not our enemy," he declared, his voice echoing through the vast chamber. "They are our future." The skies above rippled as human ships phased between dimensions, their presence a demonstration of physics that the Empire's greatest scientists were still struggling to comprehend. Admiral Chen's image appeared in the chamber, but this time it was different. A crystalline lattice of light that seemed to exist in multiple states simultaneously. "Your empire stands at a crossroads," she announced, her voice resonating with harmonics that spoke directly to the quantum-enhanced minds of the Kraken leadership. "You can cling to your understanding of reality, or you can join us in exploring what lies beyond it." The hierarchs stirred uneasily on their crystalline thrones. Supreme Hierarch Koldax raised his primary appendage. "You have demonstrated your superiority. Why not simply conquer us, as we would have done to you?" Chen's multidimensional image shifted, showing glimpses of possible futures branching out like a cosmic tree. Because conquest is a concept that belongs to the past, we didn't come to rule you. We came to invite you to evolve. As if to demonstrate her point, the human fleet began transmitting data. Not military secrets or technological specifications, but something far more profound. They were sharing the philosophical and scientific insights that had led humanity to transcend their original form. Your empire's greatest achievement, Chen continued, was creating stability across thousands of worlds. You built the foundations of a galactic civilization, but you stopped there, believing you had reached the pinnacle. We're here to show you that the pinnacle doesn't exist. There is only constant evolution. The chamber's quantum crystalline architecture began to resonate with the human transmissions, its very structure adapting to accommodate new forms of information. The hierarchs watched in wonder as their most advanced technology began to evolve spontaneously, guided by principles that humanity had mastered centuries ago. This is not a surrender, Chen explained, her form now interfacing directly with the Empire's quantum network. This is an awakening. Your civilization has spent millennia mastering the art of controlling reality. We learned to collaborate with it. Streams of data flowed through the chamber, showing the true history of human advancement. The Empire saw how humanity had faced extinction multiple times, how each crisis had pushed them to evolve not just their technology, but their very consciousness. They saw how humans had learned to merge with their creations, not to dominate them, but to transcend with them. Your bioweapons taught us about your understanding of life, Chen continued. Your quantum shields showed us how you perceive reality. Every weapon you used against us revealed something about your civilization's fundamental assumptions. And now we offer you the chance to challenge those assumptions. The human fleet's pattern shifted one final time, forming a vast lattice around Nexus Prime that began to pulse with possibilities. They weren't threatening the planet. They were offering it a glimpse of what it could become. Zextrol stepped forward again. I have seen what they are, my hierarchs. They are not our conquerors. They are not even our teachers. They are what we could become, if we have the courage to let go of what we think we know. Supreme Hierarch Koldax rose from his throne, his scales shifting through colors that had no names in any imperial language. You offer evolution instead of conquest, he addressed Chen directly. But what guarantee do we have that we won't lose ourselves in the process? Chen's multidimensional form coalesced into something both simpler and infinitely more complex. The only guarantee is change itself. We didn't overcome our limitations. We embraced them as opportunities to grow. Your empire has the potential to do the same. The question is, are you ready to stop conquering and start becoming? As the combined council of hierarchs contemplated humanity's offer, the skies of Nexus Prime danced with possibilities. The human fleet remained in its complex pattern, not as a show of force, but as a demonstration of what awaited the Empire if they dared to evolve. The war that had begun with an invasion had become something else entirely, not an ending, but a beginning. The Kraken Empire had sought to conquer humanity, only to discover that humanity had already conquered the very concepts of conquest and power themselves. And as the first streams of evolutionary data began to flow between human and Kraken systems, a new chapter in galactic history began, one where the line between conqueror and conquered dissolved in the face of infinite potential for growth.